So we'll just directly dive into what's new in Business Central 2022 preview that's available at this moment. And if you have any questions, then we can maybe take them up as we talk about it. So this is our 98th PC Open discussion. And as I said earlier, we'll be taking a pause after this. I'll be traveling for next 21 days or so. So maybe we'll meet after Diwali after this. And we'll have so many things to talk about then. The product will be out and we all would have played with it, as there are certain cool things which are getting added in Business Central 2022. Okay, so this is for the people who are watching the recording later. If you want to join the sessions, then you can just click on this link, go to this URL, and you can register for the next meeting whenever that happens. Okay, so let's first jump directly into what's new into governance and administration. And this is majorly around if you have customers on SaaS. That's where it makes a huge difference that you keep an eye on what's changing into the administration area of Business Central. So if you have customers on SaaS, then let me just open my Business Central SaaS and show you the admin center. So till today, what happens is anytime there is a change happens on yours or your customer environment, to get notified about that change, like if there is a major update happening, if there is a minor update that's available for you or your customer, you get notified about it by using the notification recipient area. You come here, you click on add recipient, you provide your name and email address, and all the names and email address that are defined in this area will get notified anytime there is a change or a extension that may cause problem in the next upgrade and all. Microsoft will send you an email notification about it. So like as of today, if you have customers on SaaS, Microsoft have already started testing compatibilities of all your pertinent extensions with the next release. So if you have customers on SaaS and you have email address defined here, then you will get notified by Microsoft that these extensions have problem with the next upgrade and you'll be able to fix it. So this is important for all your SaaS customers as well as for you as partners, but this is going to be changed. Microsoft is moving it to a better area. And if you haven't noticed it, but here it says it loud and clear that all the messages and information about your environments that are available will move to a different area rather than the notification recipient. That means the notification recipient feature is going away in future, and you'll have to get all that detail from your message center in your Office 365 admin. All these messages will appear here, and there are ways that you can also set up the rules that you get notified whenever there is an error or a warning or a new update available for this environment. So just keep an eye on it. I don't know when that's going to expire, but in future, this is going to expire the notification recipient from this, and it will be replaced with the message center and service health dashboard, which are part of your Office 365 admin. So that's the first change where it talks about that. The second one is about service to service authentication with admin API. Now, people who were here while we were doing the SharePoint integration and building that code and all, you would remember that we use service to service authentication. Now, what is service to service authentication is that whenever you have to connect to an external entity, like in our case, it was SharePoint, we don't want a pop-up that normally occurs to verify that I'm the right user, like you get with any OAuth connection that you do in your life, either when you try to log into a website, which will allow you to log in via your Google or your Facebook account. That kind of pop-up pops up every time when you interact with an application which supports OAuth authentication. Now, in a scenario where you're writing code which need to be running on background or based on user actions, you don't want that pop up every time to authenticate. And that's where the service to service authentication comes into place, where you get the app ID, the secrets stored in your environment, and you get the access token via code. Now, that service to service authentication was available in APIs for a while in Business Central. But in Business Central, there is a separate section of API which is called as admin API. Now, what is the admin API? Admin API allows you to manage your SaaS customers via using APIs rather than logging into their environment. But admin API was not, uh, you were not able to use service to service authentication with admin API. So there was a huge need of this feature for partners who had multiple customers on SaaS. Now let's think about it from this perspective. Let's say if you have 20 users in SaaS, 20 customers on SaaS, and then each customer can at least have three environment, one production and let's say two sandboxes. So you actually have 60 environments in SaaS. Anytime there is a minor or a major hotfix that need to be applied, and you want to, let's say, delay that, or you want to schedule that, or you want to install an app on all your customer environments, you actually have to log into each and every environment and then do that activity from the admin center. And that is time consuming as your customer base increases in Business Central SaaS. So to reduce that effort, now admin APIs, which means creating a new environment, scheduling an upgrade, delaying an upgrade, or deleting an environment, all those admin APIs will now be able to use service to service authentication. So you can actually build a automated solution at your end, which can manage all your SaaS customers without logging into any environment. So if you don't know about admin APIs, you surely need to spend time on it if you have customers on SaaS, because we have a pretty good amount of customers on SaaS and we would not be happy doing it manually every 6 months. That's bare minimum that you have to log into your customer environment once in 6 months whenever there is a major update available. So with service to service authentication, we were also kind of looking toward it. There was an idea submitted, not from us, but there was already an idea about service to service authentication support for APIs, admin APIs specifically. Now this is a part of it. So now we can automate our part of managing all our SaaS customer environments from our systems rather than going and logging into their environments. The next one on the administration is
Hey,
cloud Mac.
hey,
Go
Siraj,
ahead. Yeah, yeah.
what kind of things would you do, you know, being able to be connected to all your customers
So
through
normally
that
what,
API?
yeah. So normally what we do is as soon as a major update is available, like will be available on October 1st, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the two activities that we'll do is the first thing that we'll do is we'll delay the update or upgrade date for production to the last possible date that's available,
Uh,
right?
yeah.
And then if there is a space, we'll create a sandbox. If there is not any space available, we will schedule the sandbox upgrade to the earliest possible date. So once the sandbox get upgraded, we ask a customer to start testing on the sandbox. And once they are done with the sandbox testing, then we prepone the production upgrade. So this is the bare minimum that you need to do for each SaaS customer, that you can't just let their production upgrade without, they have tested their sandbox that everything looks good after the upgrade.
Okay.
Now, based on how many customers you will have to have a separate browser tab for them, or not tab, but profile for them, and log into their environment and do these activities. So with this, that will be kind of, that time will be saved where you don't have to go, and you can do all that automatically from your system using service to service authentication.
And what would be your system you're doing it from?
Any system, because at the end of, let's say, a business central, if you are trying to automate it from, let's say, your local business center,
Right.
so you will have the OAuth details for each environment stored in that business central environment, and using a code you will just call those APIs and see if you have done those activities or not, or use Power Automate. That can be anything. But it was not possible because the service to service authentication was not enabled for admin APIs in the past. You can also upgrade ISV apps that your customers are using without logging in there, or uninstall a app or install a new app. All that possible without logging in there using service to service.
Okay. Would that all be done through a Power Automate, or do you actually connect to their environment and do it,
As
or
of
both?
now, we connect. As of now, we manually connect to each environment and do these activities. But with this next release, you can actually think of an automation that you can do at your end
Okay.
and do it all automatically without, you know, hassle of logging into each individual environment and do it. So that's what is possible with the, with having an OAuth app published on every customer environment, and utilize that info to interact with your business and customers' business and environments. Okay, the next one, which I didn't understand why it is there, but there is a feature called Cloud Migration Data Upgrade for Extension. Now, I think this is introduced because there are still partners who are replicating their data from Business Central Business Central 14 on-prem to Business Central SaaS. Now, as a upgrade practice, we understood that it's not the right way to do it, because there is a lot that happens between Business Central 14 and Business Central 20 at this moment. So what we try to do is we normally take them to the latest available version on-prem, and then from there we replicate it to SaaS. And that's where this is not applicable to us at this moment. But if you are a partner who are replicating your customer data from Business Central 14 on-prem to Business Central SaaS directly, then there are chances that after the replication, there is an extra stuff that you have to do, which is run data upgrade, which based on database size can take hours or minutes or days in some cases, because there is a lot that need to happen in that step. So what Microsoft is saying with this feature is that if you have a upgrade code written on your extension, which is also part of uh, the replication, then that upgrade code will also run with the base Microsoft upgrade code. And if there is a problem, it'll actually stop there rather than stop, kind of that you don't have to start it from beginning, which is true as of today. That if something breaks in that step, you actually have to start from beginning and re-replicate. We haven't been doing replications from BC14, so I don't have much experience about it. But we realize that this is not the best practice somewhere in Business Central 18. So as of today, we never replicate from BC14. We take them to the latest and greatest version on-prem, and then from there we replicate them to SaaS, because it's so much safer. It takes less time, and there are less chances of breakage. But if you are working from Business Central 14 to Business Central SaaS, then this feature will help you that in case there is a breakage, the telemetry will show you exact cause of the error, and you can actually resume from there where it broke. But I'll highly recommend never replicate from BC14, because you can actually automate your upgrade from BC14 to BC20 or BC19 at this moment. It's all possible. So it's not a huge effort to upgrade on-prem and then replicate to the matching version, rather than going to an older version to a higher version in SaaS. Next is about the license user fetch from my Microsoft 365. And on this, I guess me and Dan was talking a while ago. So in Business Central, what happens as of today, and this is all SaaS, this is not on-prem. If you have multiple users in your Business Central customer environment, what you do is once you have the environment, you go to your users page, and then you zoom this in. Let me zoom this out a bit. Okay. Update users from Microsoft 365. What this does, it actually picks all the users that you have in your Microsoft 365, which are available in your admin center. So if I try to do it right now at this moment, all the users that I have here will be pulled into Business Central as it is, all these users. Now, what Microsoft understands that as a part of doing this activity, there can be thousands of users that you have, but only few of them are actually using Business Central or are allowed to use Business Central. So with the next version, what Microsoft is trying to do is anyone who have a license, any user only who have a license attached of Business Central. Let me show you how it looks like. I think I have it in here. If I have a license attached of the Business Central, then and only then I'll be pulled from that menu in my user setup. That if I have a license, then and only then I'll be pulled up here in my users page. If you only work on-prem, then just FYI, you can't add new users in Business Central SaaS, or the only way to bring user in is from your uh, 365 portal, and based on the license going forward, it'll pull all the users that are needed on your Business Central SaaS environments. Okay, I don't know much about GP, but there are some enhancement. I knew that there was a very limited set of data that Microsoft was supporting with the GP replication that was available with Business Central earlier, but now they are expanding that list. So if you have customers on GP, now all these options, all these data can be included in your GP to Business Central replication. You can migrate your unreconciled bank transactions. You can migrate your vendor remit to address and vendor main address, physical period to accounting periods, and vendor class, customer class, item class to posting groups, respective posting group. So they're also, it seems Microsoft is also looking toward replication process from GP to Business Central. I don't know much, but I've heard that there seems a limited time frame to how long Microsoft is going to support GP. And that's where I guess Microsoft is putting their efforts to make sure whatever they can pull from an existing GP system to a Business Central system, that'll help GP customers to migrate to Business Central. So if you're anywhere involved with GP, I would highly recommend to test all this and is it even happening or not? Because Microsoft will surely require feedbacks and inputs on what else you would like to bring up so that they can work on it. Now the next one is about restore of a deleted environment. Now if you're on SaaS and as of today, if you delete an environment, that environment is deleted. The only way to bring it back if you need it, and if you have deleted it by mistake, is to create a support ticket with Microsoft. They will check what is the last time that backup was taken of that environment, and they'll restore it to that last possible backup situation or the stage where it was last backed up. I heard about it in the last release, but it seems it will be available not exactly with the initial release in October, but somewhere in November. But going forward, Microsoft, when a user request a environment deletion, will do a soft delete for 7 days. So from the time you delete an environment, you will still see it on your admin center for next 7 days as kind of disabled or deleted as the status of that environment. But that will also allow you, like all these are active, you might see some as deleted and not accessible after that feature becomes live with the next release. And in 7 days, if you need, you can restore that environment back without even going to Microsoft or creating a ticket. But if you don't restore that in next 7 days, then Microsoft will remove that environment after 7 days. I don't know what kind of customers are deleting their environments which are of use, but maybe there are customers who can do that. And in that case, you get next 7 days. If by mistake you delete a production environment, let's say, you still have 7 more days to restore that back before that gets removed from your admin center. As we all know, that Microsoft keeps on taking backups of your database at a defined interval. But with this, it'll also give you a flexibility that you don't have to go back to Microsoft. You can just restore that environment which was deleted within the 7 days. Okay. Uh, if I remember it correctly, it happened twice or thrice till now, where there are some outage situation where Business Central servers were not available for 30 minutes or an hour. That I have seen till now, three times, I guess, or two or three times. Microsoft understand that it's important for the businesses, and as Business Central is a product that being used across the globe, so you can't actually define when there will be an outage because that depends on the time of the day where in that country where Business Central is being used. So going forward, Microsoft will be proactively informing business users and administrators if the outage will affect their environment. That means if they are in that zone of Microsoft which sees some outage coming up. Now all that happen based on what you learn on the first one, that based on the notification recipient, people will be notified that there will be an outage situation if that happens in future. That's all on the governance and administration side. That means APIs with S2S is a great enhancement. Uh, it's a great reminder for people who haven't switched, but going forward, the notification recipient is moving to a different area in your D365 admin center. So keep an eye on it. Update license user, I don't know. It may make sense because you cannot also delete a user once you have created it in Business Central. You can just disable them in Business Central. So yes, if you have customers who have, hundreds of users, then in those situations it surely helps. And restore of deletion environment helps in a specific situation where you by mistakenly deleted an environment. Okay, let's jump into the development area and changes into it. Now we have been hearing about journal posting aggregation for a while in Business Central, and I'm pretty sure everybody have read it, or while they were doing development in Business Central, they might have seen it that there are some things that are going to change, and we actually don't know. As in, we know that this is going to change. Microsoft is changing this, but we haven't been caring about it at this moment. We need to start thinking about it because that area at least impacts some of our customers, not all of them. But what Microsoft have done is have changed that posting aggregation into an interface. Now, in past we have talked about interface, I guess, twice, and that interface is being accessed in the Business Central base code. If you look at code unit 80s and 90s of the world, you'll see how Microsoft utilizing the invoice posting buffered uh, interface and how it makes life easier. But you need to remember it that if you start working on it today, because eventually you will have to work it if your customers have customs around this area and they will start seeing this problem in future, you need to remember if you're trying it, it's not applicable to productions yet. So anything that you are going to try or change and test out, that all can happen only on your on premises environment or on the sandbox environment. But as of today, the guidelines from Microsoft says very clearly that this feature is not yet enabled on production. So you can only do the devs or the change that you're trying to do and test out in your sandbox environment. You can't just directly use it in production at this moment. But if you see those warnings when you are building your source code for your customers, keep an eye on it. It need to be rewritten as this feature goes away. And let me quickly check when that is going away so that we have an idea about it. Okay, this is invoice posting interface. Hmm. Okay, let me see. This is code unit. Oh, this is purchase post invoice code unit. That's the wrong code unit. Okay, should have it open somewhere. Mhm. Okay, not this one. User call out, storage, country, permissions, VFX. Hmm, I need to zoom this out, I guess. Let me see how many windows I have open. Okay, here it is. Salesforce. So if you look at it as of today, this is how it is written. If use legacy invoice posting, which means it's still using the legacy invoice posting, then it uses the old code. Otherwise, it uses the interface to clear certain, whatever is needed on that. And you can surely tag it and see when the fill invoice buffer is happening. For that, Microsoft have written a replacement to prepare line. So based on the standard code segment, you will be able to understand how you need to redesign your custom code if it exists in that area. But that's still in sandbox, as I said earlier, and you need to keep that in mind that this will go away in future. So it says clean 20, which means it should it can go in 2022 because it is tagged as 20. So it can actually go in the next release, but it seems that it is yet not ready and it'll be there for a while before it gets removed. So we can expect it into the March release that the posting aggregation feature, the legacy posting aggregation feature, has been replaced with the interface. I am not optimistic that this will get removed in this particular release, the coming release. But if you start working on that refactor, remember you can't deploy that on production at this moment. Now, in the last release, we did talk about the ALGO for GitHub, how Microsoft is providing all those script and ALGO commands on the GitHub for more or less for free in that. It's a little bit slow in that area when we tested it last year. But now Microsoft extended what else you can do with the ALGO for GitHub. So if you have a GitHub, there's a Microsoft template available on GitHub to use ALGO. Earlier, it was used to build an app, to run out, to create a Docker container, to deploy your app and test out things. But with this release, Microsoft allows you to also run the performance test within the ALGO pipeline that's available in the GitHub, as well as if you are a partner who is writing apps for app source, then automatic submission of your app to app source can happen using the ALGO for GitHub, which is there. When I say ALGO for GitHub, this is not limited just for GitHub. If you're using the DevOps, you can utilize the same script in your DevOps. So Microsoft have already exposed it on GitHub. You can just clone it and use it on your source control if needed. But that's also available if you are new into the DevOps world and you would like to play around with it before making an investment. Then the GitHub is a place where you can play around with it. All those scripts that we have seen in the previous videos are available there, which allows you to run through the whole build process in the GitHub automatically. Now, the next one on the development is about the rec by reference pass and the XML port in OData. Now, when I'm saying OData, don't think from the perspective of nav OData services. That remains as it is, more or less. But I think we did talk about it, and if anybody thinks that we need to talk about it again, we will. There is something called as unbound actions, which is part of the OData in Business Central, which typically means a function in your code unit or OData code unit that you have exposed, and that unbound action can then be triggered with a certain uh, defined parameter section from an external interface or from an external Business Central or Dynamics Nav environment. There were some limitations on the unbound action, that what it can do and what it cannot, what kind of parameters it can have and all. With this release, Microsoft have allowed two addition to the unbound action. One, you can actually use a pass by reference, it seems, and you can also use XML port as a parameter of an unbound action. So in a situation where there is an unbound action call, and if you are reading a file and then you would like to get that imported using an XML port, you can actually do that going forward. And if I'm not wrong, the unbound action was never supposed to have a pass by reference in the past. It was always pass by value as any of the parameters that are defined. Going forward, those unbound actions will also allow you to use pass by reference if you are passing a parameter to your business central environment. If you haven't played about it, we can surely talk about it. But I think we have talked about it. It's as simple as creating a method and then making it external and define the parameter of it. But there are certain limitations as of today, which are being worked on by Microsoft as we are moving ahead. Now, the next one is very common to people who have worked on nav, where customers were sometime modifying certain things from SQL directly or from an external utility and making direct changes to SQL. In that case, what we used to do in Dynamics Nav is we used to call a method which is the latest version. The get latest version, anytime that's called, it doesn't refer to the cache data that is available on the service tier. It always fetches the latest information from the SQL table, more or less. Now, that method was not available in Business Central as Business Central was announced. But Microsoft is bringing it back with accessing a specific row version from your real code. So now you can index a particular row, and the query as you make that code call will fetch the recent changes from the database into your code that you are writing. So if you in Dynamics Nav, if you have ever used the get latest version, or I don't remember the exact keyword for that. I guess it was get latest version. It's similar to that, and you can still fetch the latest change from the database rather than reading it from cache. Going forward on the development, I don't know who all have faced this, but I did. Uh, while you are debugging your code, at least starting Business Central 18 and higher, when Microsoft included a new table type called temporary, or even the temporary records, it says. It was hard to kind of go into a loop and then, like in the sales post, all the sales line get into a temp variable and then the posting starts. It was a bit pretty much hard to debug situation where there are a whole lot of code which is referring to all temporary structures or variables. Going forward, uh, Microsoft is giving you these options instead of just giving you a break on record write, which is available on your launch.json when you start debugging your environment. Now Microsoft will give you new options, which is that you can exclude temporary tables, you can exclude all, you can exclude none, or the default values that were there earlier were true and false. If it is false, it will not break in on any record writes. Anytime a record write happens, it will not wait for you. If it is just set to true or all, that means it will break on all record write. Anytime there is a new record being inserted via any code that you have, it'll give you a breakpoint at that point without defining that breakpoint more or less. And then in the exclude temporary, that's a new option added. It will only break if the record wherever the write is happening is not a temporary table. Now you should know what a temporary table look like. It's not the temporary variables that you are talking about. It's we are talking about the temporary table. So all the tables that we have that you would have seen which are tagged as buffer will be are already converted as the temporary table. So let's think about a temporary table. I guess invoice posting buffer is already marked as temporary, and you get a warning if you are utilizing it some way or other in your source code that this table have been already marked as temporary and it will be replacing the actual table. Now, if you haven't read about the temporary tables, do spend some time on it. Super cool. It doesn't actually create a physical table on SQL Server. It just creates a table uh, in the runtime, more or less, kind of a temporary table or a temporary variable that you used to do. So all these tables which were used for some buffer purposes are already tagged as table time temporary. And if you are upgrading from Dynamics Nav, and for whatever reason, if you have some data in these all these tables, you will start getting error messages in your data upgrade that you need to make sure that this table is empty because this table type is changed to temporary. Because a temporary table cannot retain the data, it is just in the memory while that code is executing. It doesn't count against your user license if they are on-prem. It doesn't get created on SQL Server as an actual table. And it's just a table in the memory that you can utilize to do some crazy calculation that you might do. And that's where this temporary table type temporary comes into the picture. And with this new feature that Microsoft is introducing with the next release, you're going to actually exclude the breakage of your code while you're debugging if the writes are happening on a temporary table. Okay, next one of my favorite thing. I didn't know that Microsoft is going that route, but it is super cool. They did went. So after Business Central 14, there was always a lack of an upgrade process in the code. And people who have dealt with upgrade and have experienced it in Business Central, they know how much a nightmare it is if you have to delete a field or delete a table or even replace or change the design of a table. It's a nightmare because you have to go through all the hoops of a repeat until of each record and then try to move it and all. But I was thinking that when Microsoft announced it last year or somewhere in the middle of the year, they might start looking at it how it used to happen in Nav. That they'll give you these different sync schemas based on which you can actually um, write your code so that it kind of helps you to transfer data based on the schema changes. If the schema is same, it'll just directly go ahead and uh, move the data between the tables. If the schema is different, then you had a possibility to write a code on an upgrade kind of code unit which then runs automatically on each company that you have in Dynamics Nav or Business Central 40, more or less. So what Microsoft did in this particular release is they said we're introducing a new data type, and that data type is called, let me open my, because I cannot write the code at this moment because of the VSIX file issue, but you can always see what Microsoft is doing. So what Microsoft did is introduce a new data type called data transfer. Now you can utilize the new data type data transfer to move data between tables or even within a table to a different field if needed. So with the next release, you will see the new data type available called data transfer, and that will allow you to transfer data between two tables. Like the first method that you need to call, and as it's written here, is a set method where you define what is your source table from where you are pulling the data and the target table where you want to put the data back. These tables can be same as in shown in this particular example from the Microsoft snippet, code snippet. These table can be same. And then once you have defined what are your source and target tables, then you can also apply a filter based on what data you would like to update or move or copy. There is also a specific situation where you might would like to add a join on a different field before the transfer happens. And we'll surely try it out once that become the product become available. And while transferring the data, if you have to add a constant value to a new field that you have defined in this new table that you're trying to transfer data, you can actually use the method called add constant value. And that will just add the constant value on each record that you are transferring in this process. And then there are two options, either copy field, which means that it's happening within the same table, or copy rows if the transfer is happening between two different tables. So the copy field is if it is happening within the same table, more or less. And if copy rows is called, that means you have a target and a destination source and the destination table are different, and it is just trying to transfer the data. The only thing to remember that you can't just utilize this new data type into any object that you want. The only object that this data type will be supported is of a code unit of type upgrade. So if and only if you have a code unit of type upgrade, which is used for an upgrade purpose, then and only then you can use the data transfer type to move the data between either between between fields in the same table or between two tables in the extensions that you have. So people who have wrote upgrade code in the past and have written all the crazy stuff with repeat until and to move each data here and there, they'll be highly benefited with this new data type called data transfer, which is part of Business Central now. Last but not least, and then we can talk about anything if needed. It was kind of behind the scene. I didn't find an article about it from Microsoft, but while I was browsing the system, saw this called data search, which is super cool the way it is built. So what happens with the data search, as you search for it, you end up with this page called search. Now you can enter at least 3 characters of the data that you're searching for. So let me search for look for customers. Pick a name. Hmm, let's say try. Okay. Let's go back and let's try to search this name. As soon as you enter it, it starts searching and it'll show you all the results that it found with that pattern or the data that you have searched for. It says in the customer ledger entry, there are these customer ledger entry, and there are more where the customer name is tries research. And I didn't put any special character into it if you look at it. But it was able to find the sales invoice header, the contacts, the customer against that name that you use as the search string. Like if I do edit them, I guess that's what one of the user is. You'll see all the results over there. Now, as soon as I thought about it, I started looking at the code, which is super fun to look at. You can actually customize what is visible. You can also see what tables are being used while this search is happening. You can also add list of tables that you would like to add into this search. Okay, and then that way the system will automatically be able to search on this table based on your search string and will show you the results in this format, broken up into different tables. And then you can also, and I'm optimistic that yeah, you are able to navigate to that record directly from this page. So think about a need of a customer who would like to search things and gets hard for them, and what kind of things they would like to search for. Because if they know what they are looking for, and if you know where that need to be looked at in what tables, you can actually extend the 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 list of table that is used to search these values. So right now this is the list. Only in these tables the system is looking for the value that you're typing in and will showing you the results based on that. But as I said, it's pretty extensible, so you can actually add new tables into the loop if needed for the search string. Okay, that's it for today. Any other questions, thoughts before we call the day? Go ahead, Jignesh.
Yes, Saurav. For a temporary table, I have a question. So,
Go
if
ahead.
I make it as one table as temporary, like 50,000, so can I use an actual table 50,010 with a normal, not a temporary? Can we use a two same number?
No,
Not.
no.
Because 50,010 is not considered into the license while I'm setting a temporary equal to year, for example. So we
The-
cannot use this
So
number.
any you can use any number which is even outside of your range, because that's not an actual table that's being created.
Okay.
It's just a table in the
And
memory.
if I'm uploading the extension to on-premise, recently I have one case. So I have created a table and I'm using just for the purpose of temporary data storing, but I'm not setting up as a temporary. So can I set temporary now after it is
No, if you set it to temporary, that data will be removed. And remember, the type temporary doesn't hold the data. It is just remain the data remains in the memory till the point the process is being run. As soon as the process ends, the data goes away. It's equivalent sorry, it's equivalent to a temporary variable more or less.
yes, what we I think we required, we run the report and for a temporary we have used that to store the data.
Yeah,
So
so
right now
uh,
what we have done, like upload the extension with normal table. So can I set after, like right now I'm setting temporary, it will work? Allow
if you set
to
it to
set a temporary?
temporary, you will have to force install your extension, because that means
Okay.
it's deleting the table in the SQL
Yes.
server, right? But
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
that way you can use that.
Okay. Got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone? Okay. If nothing, we are good for today. And I guess I'll see you after a while once I'm back.
Okay, thank you, Saurav. Have a nice journey to you.
Thanks, man.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks, guys.